Hi, I'm Ben Pascoe for learningsurfphotography.com. I'm going to talk you through one of the most essential pieces of equipment for any surf photographer who's taking photos in the water, whether using a GoPro or an interchangeable lens camera in a housing. You're going to need some swim fins. So I've got a little selection of fins here, just what I grabbed from the garage. I'm going to talk you through the basics, which ones you should pick up, and my personal favourites, and any accessories that you might need to go with them. So let's start off with the basics. This is a dive fin. So this is quite a small one because it's for a tiny child. But if you imagine, normally they're a lot longer for adult-sized feet. They're really long. They've got quite stiff, kind of plasticky blades, and a kind of foot pocket, normally kind of popped onto the top of the blade. These are great for diving and for snorkeling when you're paddling fairly slowly and you're going long distances. They're not good for surf photography, so avoid these. What you want is a shorter blade. So let's go for, here's an example. This one's a stealth fin, and you probably recognize this shape. This is the classic shape for one of the original swim fins, which is the Churchill Macapoo. So if you imagine two of these together, I'll put some photos up here of the fins I'm mentioning that I don't happen to have. Essentially looks a bit like a dolphin's tail. You don't kick with both feet together though, like a dolphin obviously. You kick separately. So that's the idea behind it. They're asymmetrical, obviously. You've got a left foot and a right foot. There's a hole. Hole always goes on the bottom, whatever sort of fin you're wearing. So it's one way of making sure you've got them the right way up. So yeah, fins fall into a couple of different categories. There's asymmetrical ones, which are essentially clones of the original Churchill Macapoo. There's a few different varieties. So that's a stealth, which is very similar. This is a Freedom fin. Again, very, very similar. This one has vents on, like a hole in the bottom for letting the water and any grit out in the toe end. And this one, like the original Macapoo, has a big hole in the middle. Advantages of having them at the end are, if you're walking over a reef, sharp reef or anything like that, it's not going to go through the hole, puncture your foot. To be fair, never really happened to me like that. It'd be really unfortunate if you did get a bit of coral or something through there. It'd be impossible in the UK because there's no coral reefs, but I have surfed in places with coral and fins like this and never any problems. When you pick them up afterwards, when you pull them out of when you've taken them off and you're walking up the beach, the water and everything else sand drains through these holes at the end. That's the main benefit, believe it or not. If you're if you're surfing somewhere with lots of little kind of tiny pebbles rather than sand, then they can kind of get all kind of bunched up in there. But to be honest, give it a bit of a kick, flop it around a bit, and they normally kind of fall out anyway. So not a huge advantage to having holes at the end, in my personal opinion. Might be just because the places I surf don't tend to get stuff wedged in there. So that's one type of fin, is this. It's an asymmetrical fin, so there's a right foot and a left foot. Then you've got like what I'd call an ergonomic type of design. This is a Hydrotech 2, and the foot pocket is kind of molded, whereas your foot pocket on this is just a kind of rounded off rectangle, and that's the same on quite a lot of them. With your Hydrotech 2, it's actually the shape of a foot, and here's a BZ rubber, also shape of your foot, vent in the end, kind of similar. The blade obviously is quite similar on these as well. It's a little bit different to this. Personally, I don't find much difference in terms of the power or how they feel when you're kicking them and things like that. It's not a huge difference. All of them have got these kind of ribs down the side, whether that's like a V shape or it's on this daffin kick, it's just raised on one edge. Here's a daffin, and it's kind of shorter, doesn't extend all the way to the end, but they've got this raised edge. Here's a Voigt duck feet, so it's kind of a bit like, this is similar to a Viper fin, which are quite popular. And yeah, so you've got the stiffer bit down the edge, and then you've got the blade and the foot pocket. So if I show you on one that's kind of obvious, yeah, so this grey rubber on this Freedom fin, don't think they make these anymore, but but you can probably pick up a very similar Stealth 2 or Stealth or MS Viper Delta, I think, are very similar as well. Basically, this grey rubber is where the foot pocket is, where you actually come in contact with the fin with your foot. That's soft, and this red rubber is stiffer. So same there, this grey rubber, a little bit softer than this end bit. The Hydrotech actually feels pretty consistent, but you can see a kind of different shade, so likewise softer. So that's the basic idea of a swim fin. They're short, so you get acceleration rather than longer like dive fins for kind of sustained long distance paddling. So you get that short burst of acceleration. You can also walk in them more easily and stand on the reef and in the shallow sand bottom or anything like that, which makes them really useful for surf photography. And yeah, they're lighter and smaller and just basically more convenient for transporting as well. So always go for a short bladed one. They're normally designed for bodyboarding, kneeboarding, mat surfing, body surfing. There are some people out there who are mostly body surfers. There's quite a big fan base of this Voigt duck feet design for body surfers. They come in like 3 or 4 different lengths and different types of rubber and things like that. So these were around for a long time. They got that charming kind of pre-marketing name, duck feet, which is quite cool. They try and sell themselves on the kind of science behind it, and the different kind of the fact that it's all 100% rubber, and I don't know, doesn't make much difference to me. Like I say, I'd happily wear any of these sets of fins that you're looking at. I do have my favorites though, and the reason they're favorites are the fit, which is the most important factor. So what I'd suggest, if you haven't got a pair, or if you have got a pair and you're not getting on with them that well, they do rub. In fact every pair of swim fins I've had will rub somehow, some more than others, and that will depend on the shape of your foot and getting the right size. I'll give you a rough idea. These Freedom fins are labelled up as large, and these, what have I got? These BZ rubbers are also large, but there's a huge difference in the size of the foot pocket. Just to give you an idea, this one loads bigger, and in fact I wear these large fins with thick 3mm rubber boots underneath them. So neoprene rubber boots, wetsuit boots is what I'm talking about. In the winter I wear boots underneath these fins and they fit fine, and then in the summer I wear these Daffin kicks, also in large, without anything, with just my bare foot, and they fit fine. So there's a big difference in variance, even within the same size, large versus large. You're going to find a difference in size. The width of it's different. The ergonomic style ones like the Hydrotech and the BZ rubber, the Churchill slashers, don't even know if they still make them, but that's another example. They're probably even more sensitive to the shape of your foot. So the most important thing is to try them out. Just see if you can get down to a surf shop or buy from an online retailer with a really good returns policy. So Amazon.com stock quite a few different varieties. Order a couple of sizes, try them on. If you're going to be wearing thin socks underneath, so you can get like really thin, let me show you. So that's a kind of thin sock that goes obviously on your foot and then inside the foot pocket, which is designed to stop it rubbing. That one's obviously a kind of summer one, so it lets all the water in. This is more of what you'd use in autumn or winter. It's a 3mm older sock. It's got a bit more of a durable bottom on it, but not much. You can see that one's pretty much wearing through. Right now I'm wearing 3mm boots with full rubber soles, some XL, I think they're X-Flex boots, just their cheapest ones. And they're really good for the winter, and I wear them with these big fins. Normally you need to size up to get your boot or your sock underneath the fin as well. So bear that in mind. Always try them on with the actual thing you're going to wear. So yeah, try them on. If you can't get to a shop, order a couple of pairs, try different varieties. They're all reasonably similar prices. You might pay between $15 and $75 roughly for a pair of fins. They last for a long time. They do, eventually they will kind of perish. The rubber has a limited lifespan. Here's a pair that are probably 25 years old and they're still all right. You could probably use them still. They're a bit small for me, but you can see the rubber kind of starting to perish a little bit. So yeah, find, if you've got a friend who's got similar size feet to you, try theirs on. Any opportunity you have, try a different pair of fins. I've obviously got quite a selection here. I've probably been using swim fins of some kind for about 25 years. So I've accumulated lots of different types of fin. Basically, some are better than others depending on your foot. And I can't tell you which one's going to be best for you. But for me personally, tried out the Daffin Pro model. So you probably recognize these. Lots of surf photographers use them. There's, I think, Zach Noyle, Hawaiian photographer. He's got his own signature colorway of these. And they do nice patterns. I think the North Shore lifeguards use Daffin as well. In terms of kind of kicking in the water, you do feel a bit more extra resistance with these because they're quite big. Got a nice kind of ridge on the side for extra stiffness, but the tip's obviously a little bit more flexible. I couldn't, if I was wearing these and then I put on the Daffin kicks, I don't think there wouldn't be a noticeable difference in how quickly I could swim out to get a shot rather than compared to each one. So I won't worry about that. Mostly fit's what you're after. So I like these kicks. They're also made by Daffin. They're light, they're symmetrical, so if you lose one, so there's my orange pair, there's my purple and yellow pair, there's my black pair. So I've lost a couple. It's no fault of the fins themselves, it's my own user error when I lose them. But I've managed to lose a couple, and because they're symmetrical, I can just pair them up with one of another pair that I've got, and I don't have to worry about losing the right fin twice and then having to buy a whole another set of fins. So, little advantage to having symmetrical fins there. What else can I say about these? So, fin savers. These are exactly what they sound like. They go around your ankle. This bit clips around your ankle. There's lots of different designs of fin saver, from like super basic ones, which are just basically a shoelace with a knot in them, through to like big neoprene cuffs that go around the heel strap and they kind of lock your foot in the fin. These ones are very basic. They're made by Dakine. They've got a plastic clip on them, and I found they're really easy to get undone and do up when your hands are really cold. So that's helpful in the UK. And they stay out of the way. I've never worried about the drag from them. Yeah, get some fin savers, they're nice and cheap. Get some fin socks if you're susceptible to rubs. Buy a pot of Vaseline, and as soon as you feel a rub on your ankle or your toes or wherever it happens to be rubbing you, blob a loaded Vaseline on before your next session, and that'll help. That's something I do all the time. Yeah, so my favourites are the Daffin kicks. You might have seen, what else? Ally swim fins. I know, I think Clark Little has a kind of signature colourway of Ally swim fins. They look a bit like these. They're kind of clones of the original Churchill Macapoo with a slightly different blade shape. But as I say, personally, not a huge amount of difference between the different shapes of blades, the different sizes of blades. They're all basically the same as long as you go for one of these short, stubby styles of swim fins. You're going to be able to use them for surf photography and get the one which fits you best. Try out as many as you can. Even if you think you're really getting on with the fins you've got at the moment, then don't be afraid to try another set. They, like I say, they last forever. They're a good investment. Companies come and go. Freedom fins have gone, I think. Don't think you get them anymore. But have a look. I'll put some links below to all the different brands that I've mentioned, where you can buy them, find out a bit more information. Grab a pair, see how they feel, and send back any that don't fit great. You're not going to know for sure until you try them in the sea, but you are going to get a really good idea if you just put them on, move around a bit. you're going to look like a bit of an idiot if you're doing this in a surf shop, but they'll understand because it can be tricky to find one that really fits you well. Once you do find one that's really good fit for you and you really like it, like I do with the kicks, buy a few pairs. If you're lucky and you get a company which are up for doing some nice bright colours, then grab a bright colour, because if it does fall off, if this snaps, or you, like I've done in the past, you've taken this off to put on a different set of fins and you've forgotten to put it back on, and you lose one, it's great that they'll float, but for instance, I mean, if you imagine, I think most of these float, some don't, but most of them float. If you can see, when they do float, they're very low in the water. You might see that much of the heel strap. So as you can imagine, that's going to be pretty tricky to keep an eye on, to keep track of. Likewise, so is that. And that's going to give you a much better chance of finding it if you do lose it. But that's it, as simple as that. Get a set. If you don't like the set you've got, try another set. If you do like the set you've got, buy more of them. And always have a spare set, especially if you're going somewhere. I lost one of these in Indonesia, a fairly remote island on like a boat trip. Luckily, I had another set with me as a spare, so I was all good. I could just get back to the boat, grab another one, jump straight back in. So yeah, take a spare set with you and figure out which one's best for you. My pick are the Dauphin kicks. If you've got any suggestions, if there's any that I've left out, like the Redleys, I remember, really popular, and Kapaloa, I think it's called. They have this similar sort of blade shape to this BZ rubber. Oh, and the Tubes blunt cuts were popular. I'm not sure if you can get them anymore. Manta blades were really popular back in the day when I was bodyboarding. When I started bodyboarding, Manta blades were pretty fashionable. But yeah, try as many as you can. If there's any that I've missed out that you think would be really good for surf photography, then let me know. You could put a comment below or send me an email, ben@learningsurfphotography.com. If you represent a company who makes swim fins and you reckon you can create something which won't rub my feet, then get in touch, because every single pair that I've tried so far will rub in some way or other. It's just a matter of how much you use it. And yeah, that's it, simple as that. Get yourself some swim fins, get in the water, check out my video about water housings, or grab your GoPro and get out there and get some shots in the water.